Hello and welcome back to the shop. Tonight I'm going to make a fairly simple project. It's a sieve, and what this is used for is I do a little amateur treasure hunting. It's just kind of another one of my hobbies, and you might be at the beach or you might be digging around in some dirt and you want to sift the dirt to find the treasures within. This is a super simple design. It's basically just a box with some 1/4-inch mesh. Let me show you how I made it. I think you'll get a kick out of it. My plan is to make the sides of my sieve about 2 inches deep. That'll give me plenty of room to dump dirt or sand in there and to shake it back and forth and not worry about it spilling out over the sides while I'm sifting through it. I have a whole bunch of these little cedar pieces left over. They're just a little larger than 2 inches, so I'm going to run them through the table saw, take them down to 2 inches in width, and then we'll get started building our box. Now that I've got my wood ripped to 2 inches, I want to build a 12-inch by 12-inch box. This wood is roughly 1/2 inch thick, so I'm going to cut 2 pieces to 11 inches in length and 2 pieces to 12 inches in length, and that'll be the basis for my box. I went ahead and dry assembled my frame just to make sure everything lined up. I'm happy with how it looks. I'm going to go ahead now and glue the butt joints and use some brad nails to hold everything together. I'm going to let that set in the clamps overnight and dry, and tomorrow I'll go ahead and attach the screen to it. I allowed my frame to dry overnight, and now I want to go ahead and get it out of the clamps. I've got some 1/4-inch hardware cloth. I'm going to go ahead and lay it out on my table saw and cut a piece a little bit larger than the frame that I made for my sieve. I've laid my frame on the hardware cloth, and this actually should be quite simple. Since the mesh is 1/4-inch square, I'm going to count out 6 squares, which will give me an 1.5 inch overlap, and I'm going to go ahead and use just some tin snips and cut a piece out to attach to the frame. I accidentally cut one grid too short on this side. I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm still going to have quite a bit of a bite between this frame and the outer frame that I attach. What I need to do now is count in 6, and then of course count in 5 on this side because of my screw up, and cut this corner piece out. That way, as well as this corner piece, I can bend up these sides to get them attached to the side of my frame. I counted over 6. There's 3, 4, and 5. And I'll go ahead and cut this little piece off. I'm going to do the same thing on the other 3 corners, and then I'll clean these little little nibs up that are sticking out. So I'll come back when I've got those cleaned up and we'll start getting it attached to the inside frame. Now that I've got my corners cut out and I've got everything cleaned up, I need to bend these four sides up. And the way I'm going to do that is use a couple of rulers, and I'm going to use them kind of like an aluminum brake. I'll line the first ruler up right along the edge that I want to bend. Then I'll bring the second ruler up, I'll pinch the two of them together. I'll overbend a little bit because, there we go, I can always let it sit in there tight and then push it back to mount it to the board. All right, let's do the next side. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and just shoot a couple of staples in here to hold everything in place, and then I'll come back and build an outer frame around everything that should really lock the screen in and keep it from coming out. I'm really happy with how the mesh screen turned out. I've got a nice tight fit on all four corners. What I want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and build another box around the outside of this to lock everything in place. I've got my outside frame cut and it's temporarily attached with clamps. The main reason for that is I just wanted to make sure that all of my joints lined up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the outside frame to the inside frame using screws. And the reason why I want to do that, let's say 6 months down the road the mesh wears out and I want to replace it. I can pull the screws out and pop a new piece on. These are the screws I'm going to be using, and what I want to do is countersink them just enough to get the head of the screw below the surface of the wood. I've got a Forstner bit and I'm just going to drill a couple of holes along this piece of wood and then we'll get it attached to the frame. I'd like to thank you for joining me in the shop today. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It feels fairly substantial with having the double wall construction. I do like the fact that I can remove the outer frame and take the mesh off in case I do damage it, because that does happen from time to time. I'm ready to get out into the field and fill this up with dirt and or sand, shake it and see what kind of treasures I can recover. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon. Have a great evening.